Hello everyone, welcome back. First I want to I will put a link below to a video by Sleepy Reader 666. I think his name is Damien. I subscribe to his channel and watch a lot of his videos, and it's good. If you're not if you have not subscribed to his channel, I say you should if you like to you know, catch some of his great videos. But he had a good video that I watched recently about why comic book is so addictive, and he gave his reason why he's drawn to the medium. It's a good video. I think we all should make a video about that and what drawn us to the medium. For me, it actually started way before I discovered American comic books in 1981, as you saw in my one of my videos about the Iron Man 150. Growing up in Vietnam, I'm Vietnamese. My dad was a collector. He studied in French. He studied in France, I mean, and so he's pretty much fluent in French, and so he taught us a lot of French. And Vietnam was a colony of the French for a long time, so learning French was almost a requisite. So growing up, I had to go take a lot of French lessons, and my dad also make us read a lot of French books at home in order to improve our skills. Sadly, as I live in America and gain English, I lose my French skills. So these days, I can't communicate in French anymore. So, but back then, one of the things he had that he allowed us to read was French comic books. After he got back from France, he did bring home a bunch of comic books that he bought while he was overseas. He fell in love with the medium himself, so he brought back a lot of stuff. So growing up, starting at the age of like 5 or so, my dad had a huge collection of Asterix and Obelix. For those that are not familiar with the Belgium comic books, I'm not sure you call it comic books, but I bought them over here, but they're in French. But this is basically very similar to what my dad had when I was growing up at home. So as you can see, I have repurchased many of these books, many through eBay. They're pretty cheap, but if you're not familiar with them at all, you can buy the American version with the translation already, maybe not hardbound like this, soft cover, on Amazon for less than 10 bucks, I think. So it's a great read. I mean, the art inside is just gorgeous. So when I was growing up, I couldn't wait to read these things. My dad was, as you can see, I can show you some of the great drawing that they have. Okay, so growing up, we had this. We had Smurfs. We also have Lucky Luke. He's a cowboy. I bought the American version for my son to read and to go through. The same people basically did these two. The same artist for sure. He's fantastic. I believe he's still alive. I believe. I could be wrong, but I love his stuff. So we had Smurf, we have Lucky Luke, we have Asterix and Obelix, and then we had the last title that he had a lot of copies was Tintin, as in Tintin. Hopefully some of you have saw the movie. I think last year. It was decent. It was, from my viewpoint, it was fun because watching that movie is almost like flipping through the book themselves, because it was very the cartoon motion capture that they did with that movie was so well done that it's I feel like I was like flipping through the Tintin book myself at the moment. It's so well done, beautiful drawing, beautiful cartoon. But so growing up, you know, I had a love for this medium. I was exposed to it fairly early, and I fell in love with it right away. I mean, it was great. And you know, growing up in the '60s in the old country, there was not a heck of a lot of entertainment, right? So being exposed to something like this was just like, wow. I mean, it blew my mind. You know, it was so wonderful. I mean, I remember being 5 or 6 years old and rereading these books on a daily basis. My dad didn't have to nag me to study French. You know, I gladly whip out these books and read them in front of him, you know, with him, along side by side with him, and he would explain certain words, correct our pronunciation on certain things. But it was a wonderful time. That's why I bought these things now. I mean, years later, when I came to America, you know, I couldn't help it but buy these for myself just for the sake of nostalgia. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I collect today. You know, I think, no doubt, nostalgia and going back to time and remember all the wonderful things. But to me, the medium is so wonderful in introducing a world of imagination. You know, it's such a different form of entertainment that unlike any other. You know, I mean, for me, it's surpassed anything that even like a movie could do. Sure, I love science fiction. I guess that's part of the DNA of me to like that kind of genre. But overall, I think with comic books or these books, it just opened up the world imagination and wonders. You know, I mean, as a youngster, I fell in love with this medium right away, and I spent so much time drawing these characters because it was just so much fun. You know, which lead to, you know, after I left Vietnam in 1979, there was about a 2-year span where, you know, I was not exposed to comic books at all. And you know, if you are not born in this country and you came to America, it take a couple years to adjust. Life was not easy. You know, I mean, you know, I was 13 years old, didn't speak any English, and the first 2 years was pretty rough. You know, we were poor, and you know, with any 13, 14-year-old, I think, you know, the whole adjustment to America was extremely difficult. It was not an easy time for me at all, and so in '81, when I stumbled across American comic books, in many ways it was just like the best thing that can happen to me, because I think at that time, you know, even though I was in America for 2 years, I was struggling with English, and I was very negative. I was very pessimistic. I was down on myself because nothing was going right. It seemed like, you know, I just didn't fit in. And you know, finding that book, finding American comic books, was just like a rebirth of my joy, you know, almost like, you know, I feel alive again. You know, I remember for the first time in like 2 or 3 years, I was excited to read. You know, so right away, you know, I dived right into reading American comic books as much as I could, learn the English, and loving it. And it opened an entire new window to a new world of imagination. You know, I mean, until then, you know, I never heard of, you know, I didn't know much about American superheroes. I have seen a Batman movies growing up in Vietnam, but I didn't understand the English. and there was no subtitle, and it was kind of kooky, and it was one of those a movie with Batman, Robin, and the Penguin, and the Joker, all that stuff. It was kind of goofy, but I didn't get it. I didn't know they came from comic books. So when I came to America, exposed to American comic books, it was wow. I mean, once again, it reminded me of being the 5 or 6 years old that first read these comic books. And so it just opened the door blew open, and it was a fun time. I mean, I can't tell you how much fun it was for me from 1981 through 85, because I was completely obsessed with comic books. I would buy out comic books and I would reread it daily, sometimes twice a day, because really, you gotta understand, back in 1981, 82, 83, we're not talking about cable TV or PlayStation or anything like that. I mean, there's really not that many other form of entertainment. There would be, we have, TV at home with 4 channels. You got ABC, CBS, NBC, and then PBS. That was it. And often at night, after dinner and everyone sitting around watching the Love Boats or whatever nonsense was on TV, I would go to and reread my books. I would take out the 3 or 4 or 5 copies I have and read them again. I was not bored of them after the 10th time. Doesn't matter. It was so too much fun. So the part that why comic books is so addictive is because for me the nostalgia factor is heavy, no doubt, because it brings back a lot of great memories. Because I look back at my early years, and really there's not a lot of high points. Not that I have a miserable childhood, but if I have to talk about the best time, often it's involving comic books, whether I was 6 years old or 13 years old. Those were the moment that's fresh in my mind on what was absolutely